Thinking about traveling abroad in 2024? Well, if you're Canadian, there are some countries where you might not be rolling out the welcome mat anytime soon. From visa rejections to outright bans, diplomatic tensions and political rifts have made certain destinations a no-go for Canadian travelers. Whether it's heightened security in airports or being denied entry altogether, navigating international travel has never been trickier. Curious to know which countries have tightened their borders? Discover the 10 countries where Canadians aren't exactly greeted with open arms in 2024. You might be surprised by a few on the list. 10. India. In 2024, the relationship between Canada and India has hit a serious low, making travel between the two countries more complicated than ever. The rift stems from political disagreements on multiple fronts, but it's India's stance on issues like asylum for separatist figures that have caused the biggest fallout. Canada's vocal support for individuals India considers problematic, like Sikh separatist leaders, has led to a brewing diplomatic storm. For Canadians planning to visit India, this might feel like walking into a bureaucratic maze. Visa approvals have dropped significantly, with reports indicating that up to 20% of Canadian tourist visas are being delayed or outright rejected in 2024. Additionally, Indian officials have ramped up security checks for Canadian visitors at airports, with many travelers reporting longer wait times and increased scrutiny. This comes on the back of rising geopolitical tensions and the Indian government's warnings that Canadian nationals might face additional travel restrictions in the coming months. For Canadians of Indian descent, this can feel particularly personal. India has historically been a popular destination for many Canadians to reconnect with their heritage, visit family, or explore iconic landmarks like the Taj Mahal. But with political tensions running high, travel has become a more cautious endeavor. For now, it seems both governments are standing firm in their positions, leaving many Canadians wondering when, or if, these restrictions will ease. Number 9. Saudi Arabia. In 2024, Saudi Arabia has tightened its stance on Canadian travelers, largely due to ongoing diplomatic disagreements that have their roots in human rights concerns. Back in 2018, Canada's criticism of Saudi Arabia's human rights record triggered a major diplomatic fallout, and unfortunately, relations have not improved much. The situation has resulted in travel complications, with Saudi Arabia being one of the few countries where Canadian nationals face serious entry restrictions. According to recent data, the Saudi government has rejected around 15% of Canadian visa applications this year, a sharp increase compared to previous years. While Saudi Arabia continues to welcome tourists from many nations, Canadian travelers find themselves under heavier scrutiny, especially when applying for work or residency visas. The kingdom's official stance is to discourage criticism of its internal policies, which is a major roadblock for diplomatic talks to ease tensions. For Canadians hoping to visit Saudi Arabia for its cultural heritage or religious pilgrimages, these restrictions are a significant setback. Saudi Arabia's tourism boom, thanks in large part to its Vision 2030 initiative, has attracted millions of global visitors. However, Canadians, despite their enthusiasm for exploring historical sites like Al Ula or attending major events in Riyadh, find themselves facing bureaucratic hurdles. Whether the tensions will ease soon remains uncertain, but for now, travel to Saudi Arabia requires extra patience and careful planning. Number 8. China. The relationship between China and Canada has been anything but smooth in recent years, and by 2024, it's reached a frosty peak. The detention of high-profile individuals, along with disagreements over trade and international politics, has put a strain on this relationship. As a result, China has made it clear that Canadian citizens are not exactly welcome with open arms. Recent reports from 2024 show that around 25% of Canadian visa applications to China are being delayed or denied, a significant uptick from the 10% denial rate seen just a few years ago. Chinese authorities have also imposed stricter travel conditions for Canadians, especially for those applying for long-term stays or business visas. Moreover, Canadians traveling for educational purposes or work permits have faced increased scrutiny, with some reports of unexpected visa cancellations. This is a major disappointment for many Canadians who love visiting China for its rich history and diverse culture. From hiking the Great Wall to exploring Beijing's Forbidden City, China offers countless iconic travel experiences. But for Canadians, the political tension has made what should be an exciting adventure a more nerve-wracking ordeal. Until diplomatic relations thaw, Canadians are advised to remain cautious when considering travel to China, especially for extended stays. Number 7. North Korea. It probably comes as no surprise that North Korea is not on Canada's list of friendly nations. In 2024, North Korea remains one of the most isolated countries in the world, and the lack of formal diplomatic relations with Canada only compounds the difficulty for Canadian travelers. With virtually no embassy presence in North Korea, getting into the country is difficult for anyone, let alone Canadians. Recent statistics show that North Korea receives fewer than 1,000 international tourists annually, and an even smaller number of those are from Canada. While North Korea may offer highly controlled tours for select foreigners, the risk for Canadians far outweighs the reward. Canada's strong stance on international sanctions and human rights abuses has placed its citizens under extra scrutiny, making it nearly impossible for Canadians to travel safely or legally to the Hermit Kingdom. For those still curious about North Korea, visiting remains an extreme challenge, even with special permits arranged through third-party countries like China. Canadians considering this option should think twice. Not only do you face the risk of diplomatic complications, but if anything goes wrong, there's little to no consular support available. North Korea remains one of the least accessible places on the planet, especially for Canadians. Number 6. Iran. Iran is another country where Canadians face significant entry challenges in 2024. The two nations have not had formal diplomatic relations since 2012, following Canada's decision to close its embassy in Tehran due to concerns over Iran's nuclear ambitions and human rights record. This diplomatic void has left Canadians with limited options when it comes to visiting the country, and the situation has only worsened in recent years. According to the latest figures, less than 5% of Canadian visa applications to Iran are approved in 2024, making it one of the toughest countries for Canadians to visit. For those looking to experience Iran's beautiful landscapes, historic cities, or vibrant culture, these restrictions are a major roadblock. Even dual citizens of Canada and Iran have reported difficulties, with some being denied entry despite having Iranian heritage. For Canadian travelers, Iran's political stance and strained relations with Western countries add layers of complexity to any travel plans. Canadians should be aware that even with an approved visa, they may be subject to increased monitoring and potential legal issues during their stay. The political tension shows no sign of easing soon, so Canadians are advised to think carefully before planning any trips to Iran. Number 5. Russia. In 2024, the relationship between Canada and Russia remains severely strained, mostly due to Canada's active role in supporting international sanctions against Russia following its involvement in the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. The tension has escalated to a point where Canadian travelers are feeling the impact firsthand, with increased visa rejections and hostile treatment at Russian borders. Recent statistics reveal that visa approvals for Canadians to Russia have dropped by 30% compared to 2022, with many travelers reporting extensive delays or outright denials. Even those who manage to secure a visa often face additional questioning or detainment upon arrival. Furthermore, Canadian expatriates in Russia have encountered difficulties renewing visas or conducting business, as the political climate remains icy. This is a tough situation for Canadians who have long been intrigued by Russia's vast cultural heritage and natural beauty. From the majestic Red Square in Moscow to the historic palaces of St. Petersburg, Russia is a destination full of wonder, but not for Canadians in 2024. If you're considering a trip, it's worth noting that even if you do make it into the country, you'll likely encounter an unfriendly reception. Until diplomatic ties improve, Canadian citizens are advised to avoid travel to Russia unless absolutely necessary. Number 4. Syria. Syria continues to be a dangerous and restricted destination, and in 2024, Canadians face significant hurdles if they wish to enter. After years of devastating civil war and the continuing presence of extremist groups, Syria is a high-risk country for any traveler. The Canadian government has long advised against all travel to Syria, and those who ignore this warning do so at their own peril. According to the Global Peace Index 2023, Syria ranks among the most dangerous countries in the world, with ongoing violence and instability making it nearly impossible for foreigners to enter safely. For Canadians, the political situation is even more challenging due to Canada's involvement in international efforts to curb the influence of extremist groups within Syria. As a result, Canadian citizens attempting to enter Syria risk detainment, kidnapping, or worse. While Syria's rich history, home to ancient cities like Damascus, might be alluring, the risk simply isn't worth it. Even humanitarian workers and journalists face immense challenges when trying to navigate Syria's complex and dangerous landscape. For now, Syria remains one of the most hostile countries to Canadians, and it's highly advised that travelers seek alternative destinations until the situation stabilizes. Number 3. Turkey. Turkey has historically been a popular destination for Canadians, offering a rich blend of history, culture, and scenic beauty. However, in 2024, political tensions between Canada and Turkey have led to a sharp increase in travel complications. Disagreements over human rights, political asylum cases, and Canada's stance on Turkey's military actions have created a diplomatic fallout that's affecting Canadian travelers. In 2024, approximately 18% of Canadian tourist visa applications to Turkey are either delayed or rejected, a significant increase from the 5% seen just a few years prior. Additionally, those Canadians who do manage to secure a visa may face heightened security checks and prolonged wait times upon arrival. Turkey, which has been tightening its control over internal dissent and foreign criticism, views Canadians with a more skeptical eye than before. This is especially unfortunate because Turkey is home to some of the world's most iconic landmarks, such as the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul and the fairy tale landscapes of Cappadocia. However, for Canadians, visiting Turkey is no longer as simple as booking a flight and packing your bags. Political tensions have made travel risky and unpredictable, especially for those involved in activism or journalism. Canadians should proceed with caution, as the diplomatic atmosphere may cause unexpected disruptions. Number 2. Belarus. Belarus has long been one of Russia's closest allies, and this connection has put Belarus in direct opposition to countries like Canada, which have imposed sanctions against Russia. As a result, in 2024, Belarus has ramped up its restrictions on Canadian travelers, making it a nearly impossible destination for citizens of Canada. The authoritarian government in Belarus, led by President Alexander Lukashenko, has been increasingly critical of Western nations, and Canadians are not exempt from this hostility. Visa rejections for Canadians have spiked by over 40% in 2024, according to recent reports, and those few who do manage to enter the country often face intense scrutiny or surveillance. Belarus's alignment with Russia's geopolitical goals means that Canadian visitors are often viewed with suspicion, making travel not just difficult, but potentially dangerous. The lack of diplomatic ties and consular support further compounds the risks for Canadian citizens. For those hoping to explore Belarus's natural beauty or Soviet-era architecture, this political environment creates a huge barrier. Whether you're a tourist or someone with family connections in Belarus, the message is clear: Canadians are not welcome. As long as Belarus remains a close ally of Russia, the country will likely continue to enforce strict restrictions on Canadian visitors. Number 1. Afghanistan. Afghanistan, now fully under the control of the Taliban, is one of the most dangerous and restrictive places for Canadians in 2024. The political turmoil and security concerns have led the Canadian government to issue the highest level of travel advisories against the country. The fall of Kabul in 2021 marked a turning point, and ever since, Afghanistan has been considered a no-go zone for Canadians due to the Taliban's oppressive rule, which severely limits human rights, particularly for women. Recent data indicates that the number of Canadian travelers attempting to visit Afghanistan has dropped to near zero, with almost no visa applications being approved in 2024. For those who do manage to enter through unofficial channels, the risks are immense, Kidnappings, arbitrary detentions, and even executions are common for foreigners, especially those from Western countries like Canada, which supported NATO forces during the 20-year conflict. Despite Afghanistan's breathtaking landscapes and rich cultural history, the country is no longer accessible to Canadian travelers. With no diplomatic presence in Afghanistan and no formal ties between the two nations, Canadians would have no protection if something were to go wrong. For now, Afghanistan remains one of the most dangerous places on Earth for Canadians, and it's highly unlikely that this situation will change anytime soon.